Hey there, Streakers. How are you today? Jamie and I are excited to share with you the conversation we just had with Steph and Shay. They are a powerhouse couple who've built their lives and business on something we're all about: consistency, resilience, and daily intentional action. We got into a great conversation, and it was interesting to hear Steph's story about being left to live on his own at 16, Shay's story about walking into an MMA gym with nothing but a magazine cover and a whole lot of determination. And their stories really inspired us. They're honest and they're packed with practical insight. You're going to hear how they turned their personal challenges into a thriving coaching practice and a Wall Street Journal best-selling book, Master Your Mindpower. Plus, we dive into one of our favorite metaphors, the running parachute, and what it means to finally let go of what's holding you back. This episode is brought to you by the MyStreaks app, and that is the simplest way to build and track daily actions that lead to big, lasting change. Whether you're running, reading, praying, or practicing gratitude, MyStreaks helps you stay consistent, one small streak at a time. Now, without further ado, let's start streaking. Steph, Shay, it is so great to have you guys on with us today. We're so excited. Jamie and I have been looking forward to this for such a long time.
Absolutely. We're super excited. It's fun for us as a couple to be talking to another couple. And I'm excited to ask you lots of questions.
Ditto.
So welcome. We're glad to have you. Let's just start off. What started your journey? I mean, both of you together had different paths that you took to get there, but let's start there and we'll kind of venture down that path for a little bit.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, we just start with the small questions first.
I was going to say ladies first. You want me to go first?
Sure.
I guess because my mind power journey, it started, I would say before yours.
Yes.
So I guess we'll go chronological.
Yeah,
we'll look at it that
sense.
way. But, I am a gentleman, so I would want you to go first. Because ladies can go first. If I think about the beginning of my mind power journey, probably was at 16 years old, where my dad, he came to me one evening and he said, my dad's from Switzerland, so it is a strong Swiss accent. And he goes, "Stefan, I have to figure me out. I'm going to go away for a while." And he was gone the next day.
Oh, wow.
So there I am, 16 years old, living on my own. My brother was already, gone doing his career. My parents had split up whenever, I was 3 years old, and my stepmother at that time had just recently left my dad. My dad was going through, a major existential crisis in his life, and he needed to go and figure him out. And so there I was 16 years old, and had to figure it out. The house was paid for. But in terms of utilities, putting food on the table, and I did want to go to university, so I needed to save up for that. And at that point, I was just
wow.
I was devastated for a moment. I was floored. I was like, all the feelings happen, all the emotions happen. I mean, fear, anger, hatred, like all of it. And then I remember I really sat in it for a minute, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I don't think this is going to do me very good. I don't think that this is going to get me to the goals that I want. I need to get to work. And I remember something just like clicked inside me. I'm like, I need to get to work. So backstory, if we kind of go further back to everything that precedes that. So my mother, both my parents came from the old country. My mother was from France. My dad was from Switzerland. So I was the first to be born in America. So we came over whenever I was very, my parents came over when my brother was very young, and then it was kind of for like a site visit, and then I popped out on American soil, and so there I am, and then we were back and forth between the States and Europe, whenever in my first few years. So to understand and kind of paint a picture, my dad, we know Gary Chapman and the love languages,
Yep.
Of course, I'm sure,
Yep.
right? I always joke and say Gary got it wrong because none of those are my dad's love languages. My dad's love languages were success, hard work, and precision. And if you know Swiss people, then you know. So, think about like a Rolex watch,
Precision.
Swiss Army knife, the way cheeses are made, the way chocolates are made, like
It's very precise.
everything's about precision and excellence. And so none of the love languages applied to my dad. It was just those: precision, hard work, success, and so on and so forth. But so my mom, so my mom was from Paris, France. So she wore Chanel head to toe.
Oh, wow.
Like that's all she wore, Chanel, right? And so my dad brings her and my brother at the time, before I'm born, to Greenville, South Carolina. Beautiful place, but back then in the 70s, it was literally in the middle of the nowhere in the South, not a place that had gentrified like it has today. What evening attire was a white T-shirt, blue jeans, and flip flops.
Your mom might have stuck out a little bit.
My mom was like, "Qu'est-ce qui se passe alors?" Like speaking in French. Like, what is this? What is going on? Blue jeans, T-shirt, flip flops, and she just wanted to wear Chanel, including a hat. And so she was like a fish out of water. And so you had this dynamic going on. My dad, he was absolutely a workaholic. It was go, hard work, precision, success that was in his mind. He'd be gone for weeks at a time, sometimes a month or two. And so my mom, fish out of water, very Parisian French, in Greenville, South Carolina, with two boys. Dad always gone. I'll add another layer too. My dad was also a womanizer, so that didn't bode well with my mom. So by the way, my mom at that point was my dad's third wife.
Oh, wow.
A lot of people don't know that, by the way. So things blew up on the home front. I was about 3 years old, and my mom said, "I'm going back to Paris, and because there's more opportunity in the United States, I do want to leave the kids with you, but you have to agree to send them to me every summer, for I think all the way into their teenage years." So why do I bring all this up? Because my dad, he did the best he could to raise us. Like he's a hardworking businessman, entrepreneur. Very successful. He took I think he had like a $10,000 grant and created a multi-million-dollar enterprise, and did it pretty much single-handedly just through work ethic and grunt. So mom's gone. He's got two kids. What's the best way to raise them? Just put them in the business. So I remember being like 8, 9 years old, already sweeping floors. I remember already being on, payroll, well, whatever legal aspect of payroll you could do at that point. Like when I was 11 years old, answered customer service calls at 13.
Wow.
And lived in a house where the living room had a whole bunch of cubicles in it. The dining room had a board table with one of the first intercom systems ever. The garage, it had all the shelves with a whole bunch of textile machinery replacement parts, because he had a textile machinery company. So it was a very different type of a life. And so it's just myself, my brother, my dad. I always joke and I always say I was raised by two wolves, because I really was. My dad and my brother, who's 6 years my senior. And so all of that, like, I feel like it led me to that point when I was 16 years old. It was grooming me and preparing me for all that I, my dad leaving at 16, I like sat in my poopy diaper for I think half a day and bawled my eyes out, got scared, was freaked out, didn't know what to do. But literally same day, like something clicked inside and I was like, I got to get to work. And my dad had this mantra. He always said, "Stefan, everything happens for a reason. Be resilient."
Wow.
So that was like his mantra. And he had been through so many heartaches and hardships. A retired officer in the Swiss Army, part of the High Mountain Brigade, where they traversed the peaks of the Alps in Switzerland. He was a tough dude and very brilliant, very smart, and a good businessman. But he was always talking about like that, finding the silver lining to everything. Like he did not know how to have a negative attitude. He had no clue how. Every single negative thing, he turned it into a positive. And I didn't realize how much that was training me and conditioning me to be the same way. And I think that's all of that, plus all those life experiences, brought me to 16. And next thing you know, I'm living on my own. And like I said, half that day I was devastated and I was in it. But then all of a sudden I was like, okay, I got to get to work. And I started a lawn mowing business.
Let's do lawn.
So I'm like, everything happens for a reason. Be resilient. I kept hearing my dad's voice in my ears, and then it became my own voice. But I'll tell this story, and then I want you to hear Shay's kind of like the beginning of the beginning. But I'm like, okay, I want to be creative. So I want to be successful. I need money. So there's that motivation there. It was not like some kids, they start a business because they want some money to go get like a new bicycle. Me, I was like, I need to put food on the table and I have enough money to get me through Saturday and it's Wednesday.
Yeah.
How
So
many lawns do I
More.
need to mow to eat next week?
I need to mow some lawns pretty fast, and I need to rake grass, rake leaves, do whatever. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to get really creative. So I went out and I mowed my own lawn, and rather than going perpendicular or parallel to the road, I did diagonal.
Oh, nice.
And so,
Checks out.
and perfect light green, dark green, light green, dark green, light green. Cleaned everything up, and I took a picture and brought it down to the 24-hour Photoshop.
You know, when you had to wait
Yes.
and get it
Yes. Oh my goodness.
And you had to use a
That
camera?
Yeah, right. And then I had it. I think I said please print it. I think it was like 5x7. I put it with a glue stick on a piece of white paper, and then just took out a Sharpie and said, "Want beautiful diagonal lines like this? Call Steph 292-1167." And then I just plastered that everywhere, knocked on doors, and like almost overnight had customers. And I remember being in geometry class, and this is so funny, ironic. I'm balancing my budget, doing like real math when they're talking about, how many degrees are in this angle of the triangle or this, or the other, which was great and all. I'm like, okay, how much money do I have, and how much more do I need? And so that was like when I always say my mind power journey. I mean, listen, I think one could say your mind power journey begins when you're born.
Day one.
Yeah.
But honestly, that's where I know for a fact, like that I really started understanding that I do have power over my own mind, and I do have power over my own thoughts, my feelings, my behaviors. So cool. Let me work at refining each of those so that I can be in charge, and that I can drive the bus, and that I can, create my life. And if it has to be on my own, so be it. So that's kind of where everything started. One quick layer too. This is crazy. I was asked by my principal of my high school to be what's called a natural helper, which is a coach and a mentor to other students at the school that were struggling with addictions, parental abuse, suicidal thoughts, etc. And they put us through a training camp to train us on how to coach and mentor. So that was 30 years ago. So I literally first started formally coaching and mentoring people while I was in high school 30 years ago, and that was happening while my world's falling apart. I was being asked to help other people put the world back together. It was happening literally at the same time as me living on my own.
Wow.
So all this started happening, and as I always say, that's like right here is definitely the beginning of my mind power journey. And I'd also say like when I really stepped into my purpose to make a positive impact. Like, and back then it was in the lives of my peers. Now, of course, I feel like my purpose is bigger than that. It's on the world. So that's kind of, for me, the kind of the origin story, and then also the story before the story, and the story before the story.
No kidding. That is amazing as far as the journey that you went through. Okay, I have a ton of questions, but
So
I
do
want
I.
to go to Shay
Yeah.
before we have. All right, so Shay, where did yours
Yeah.
start?
Yeah, and remember your
I will.
question.
Oh, we will.
because-
Absolutely.
Good. Yeah. For me, my journey was a little bit later. It was in about my early 20s, and I had a series of different events that kind of left me in a depression slump, and I succumbed to unhealthy habits, and before I knew it, I had gained a lot of weight, and both physically and mentally and emotionally, and just had negative emotions and limitations, what we would now call today running parachutes, which we can talk about later.
I'm excited to actually
And-
talk
Yeah,
about
I
that.
am
That
too.
was pretty cool to read about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so all of this kind of weighed me down, and again, both mentally, emotionally, and physically, and I kind of woke up one day and realized, whoa, this is the person looking back at me is not me. Like, what happened? And I had gained about 35 pounds in a short period of time, and I snapped out of it and kind of realized, okay, wait, I know I can be more than this. I can do more than this, and I can have more. And so, something's got to shift. And so I was flipping through a fitness magazine one day, and there's a model on the cover named Jamie Eason, and she was really popular at the time. And I thought, wow, I was inspired by that. And I said, I want to look like that. I think I could look like that. And so I went into a big an MMA gym, a mixed martial arts gym, which was odd that I
was going to ask that. I'm like, was it?
Were you going home, or was this like the first thing? You're like, I'm going to go to an MMA gym.
Yeah, I was like, let me go into a gym. Well, it's funny because there was a 24-hour fitness over here, and then the MMA was over here, and I went to the MMA gym, and I could have easily gone to the 24-hour and just got a personal trainer, but something inside of me has always been that a little bit. I kind of do things my own way and against the grain, and so that seemed like against the grain and the different thing. And so I went in there, and I'd never been in a gym like this before, and I just walked up to a big guy, a big trainer who looked like he knew something, and I held up the actual magazine and I said, "Can you make me look like this?" And he looks at me, he looks at the magazine, and he said, "Why?" And I said, "Well, I want to feel comfortable in my own skin." So he looks back at the magazine, he looks at me, and he's like, "Okay, let's do it." And so he put me through this strenuous boot camp, and it was every day. He gave me a meal plan as well, which was really strict. It was literally just like he was training me like I was one of the fighters. And Steph came in there one time, and he was just like, whoa. He was like, would you say you don't get on? You don't
I was like, I don't want to get on her bad side, because she's in there, like she's doing high kicks, and like, they're working out with guys that could fill a door frame, and I mean tall and wide, and Shay's working out with them, and I'm like, oh my goodness. I was inspired. Like fitness and health have always been important to both of us, going all the way back. I think you just had like a lull because of that time period. But I will say then she was way ahead of me on the fitness front, and it inspired me to ratchet it up a little bit. I'm like, whoa, I kind of had reached the comfort zone at that point. I'm like, oh my goodness. So then you remember I was like, can I join you? I said, I'd like to join you in the sessions.
Yeah.
And it was ridiculous. I'd never experienced anything like that. Like you come out of there and you can't walk for 3 days. And
then you're doing a workout the next day, and you just keep going and going and going.
And this is the type of gym where it was graffitied, of course, like a classy, like good-looking, artful graffiti, and it said, "Every day is legs day." And that was the truth. Every day I went in there, we're working out legs. It was insane. So
I, needless to say, I lost the weight. I got fit. I got healthy. I got my mindset right, and really just kind of stepped into a new level of resilience, and really kind of like switched on my mind power, and so through that journey, not only did I build my confidence, but then people were coming to me and asking me, "How did you do that? What did you do? Can you help me?" And that was the first time in my life that anyone had asked me, they were coming to me for help. And so knowing that Steph had such a long background of coaching and mentoring, I went to him and I was like, "Well, what do I do? What do I do? Like all these people are coming to me." And he said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I want to help them, but I don't know how." And then he said, he said these words I'll never forget. He said, "I think you're ready." And then that is kind of when we launched our efforts together. We went back.
Additional schooling,
credentials. And whatnot, and just psychology and the mind and neuroscience and all of that. And I left my previous background of marketing and branding, and he left his previous world, and that's when we kind of joined efforts and started our company in
2009, late 2000.
So how did you two meet? That's the story that I haven't seen anywhere. Is how did the Steph and Shay get together? When did this happen?
Yes.
So 2004, we met each other
in San Diego.
In San Diego at Pacific Beach. She was out with her friends at the beach. I was out with my friends. Asked my buddies to throw a football into this crowd of girls. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Hit this girl.
She's the one I want to talk to.
She's the one I want to talk to.
We all know that story, right? Throw the ball over there. No,
we have a joke in our family that when a boy sees a cute girl, what goes through his head? Act stupid, act stupid, act stupid. Because it's kind of this joke that sometimes the boys are like, "Why did you do that?" And they're like, "I don't know. She was pretty."
Totally. Yeah, no, there was this really cool lunch spot that was right on the boardwalk, and there was I was hanging out with my buddy. She was with her girlfriends, and literally just a conversation sparked between one of her friends and me, just whatever small talk. And I remember while chatting with her friend, I saw Shay, and I was like, wow, she is the one. I went through an exercise. A mentor told me, because I had a relationship through college, and shortly after college, I think we broke up so many times. It was crazy over multiple years. It was one of those relationships, she didn't meet like all the criteria of what I saw in being my dream partner. And so I had a mentor once say, make a list of everything you want and don't settle. Like if there's criteria that are important to you, then make sure you're conscious about it, and then let, depending on what someone's beliefs are, let God, the universe, divine infinite intelligence, get to work. And of course you take massive action and find her as well. Yeah. But you're not going to know what you're looking for unless you get really clear about what it is you want. And so I remember having a list of like pages of attributes, qualities, and this, that, or the other. I saw Shay, and I was like, I think this is her. Like what my dream partner list is. And I'm like, well, I mean, this is just from looking at her. I need to talk to her and engage with her. I mean, within an hour of talking to her, I knew with 100% certainty that it was her. I was like, I just knew it. And so it's so funny because we're both high introverts, like high introverts.
What does that mean when you say high introvert? Like that's highly important to you, or you just...
No, introvert, like you're internal.
Right, so highly internal. Okay.
Highly internal. So talking about, from a Myers-Briggs standpoint, or a personality type standpoint, Carl Jung talked about it, and psychological types. So introverted people, they're more internal. They're more within themselves. They recharge their batteries alone. Where extroverted people, they're very external, and they have to be with other people to feel alive.
Yeah.
They literally, they're the type on Friday night want to go out to a party. Like us on Friday night, it's us and our son and pizza and ping pong, and that's it.
Yep.
People are like, can we join you guys? Nope. Nope. It's like that's enough for us. So even us.
But it's a spectrum, right? So when he says like high introvert, like if this is introvert, this is extrovert, he'd say like if this is the midpoint, right? Like high being like
very introverted.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Like we can hang out with if we had like a dinner party, like another family would be okay. That would be cool.
Yeah.
3 or 4 families, we probably would not be very comfortable. It'd be too much.
We would do it, of course, but it
wouldn't recharge us.
It might fatigue us afterwards. Of course, now for the work that we do, we know how to turn it on and be extroverted, right?
We have to. The work we do.
Yet naturally, and I will say I'm even more than you.
Yes, you are.
And I was really, really, really like detrimentally almost introverted and shy growing up, that it caused a lot of challenges for me because I could never put myself in situations. I wanted to put myself in situations, but I wouldn't until finally I forced myself, and like I took speech classes, and I had to give a high school graduation speech to the whole graduating class because I was the vice president. And so I put myself in situations that would force me to do it because I wouldn't do it like on my own wanting to do it, but I just like had to force myself because I wanted to. And so meeting him also helped because he's so charismatic and has the gift of gab. And I've had to really work on that over the last 30 years. To now where today we speak to thousands of people, but that's not natural. So that's
you've trained, you've developed that.
Yeah, it's definitely
you had to train.
And I'll have to say, you guys have done it very well because I've watched in whatever's recorded. I've been watching different things, and on stage, you guys interact with each other so well, and it flows back and forth so well. And I know just from Jami and I, from our experience of speaking as well, that is not something that is just there. I mean, you work at it. It's a skill. It becomes a strength through time.
Yep. Yeah. It's like a
A muscle.
It's a muscle, but it's like a sports team. You got a lot of people on the field. It's about getting them to work in concert. It's like, and so, but when we met, so both introverts, and yes, you're definitely more introverted. She was just kind of sitting there, like looking around and this, that, or the other.
Like I thought he was interested in my friend, so I was and she's very extroverted, and so they were like talking, and it was packed in this place, so it was single file, and it's so he was on that side, my friend was in the middle, and I'm here, so I'm like, oh, they're talking, I'm just like do, and he kept poking his head like this, like trying to get my attention, and I'm like, you hear me? And he goes, yeah, and so then my friend got the idea and she goes, get over here, talk to him.
So we were just talking, and it was, man, time just flew. Like I knew within an hour, like she was the one, but it was crazy. We were just like talking. We met on a Saturday and just hung out until early Monday morning when I had to wake up at 4:00 and go to work. And all we did was, I remember we just talked and ate
meals,
and then Sunday evening watched The Sopranos.
That's so fun.
Like literally, and it was like we had known each other forever.
Yeah.
And no intimacy happened. Wow. Nothing. It was just we just were talking. These two introverted people that obviously had a connection, a spiritual connection. Just you couldn't. Anyway, so that was that. I asked her to marry me 3 months later.
Wow.
That is so great.
That is.
Yeah.
I was just like, you remember, I saw her and I was already like,
She's the one.
this is her.
Yeah. Now, Shay, did
And
you
then I
feel
talked to
similarly? I mean, were you like, oh, he's the one, or did it take a little while?
So I'm a little bit more stubborn. So I was like I wasn't going to admit that, even if I realized it. So it took me a little bit longer to catch on. But no, I did realize how easy it was that everything just flowed, and we talked about that, and we even said that. We said, let's just make this easy. Like, if we want to talk to each other, let's talk to each other. If we want to go out on a date, let's go out on a date. If we, not that whole
don't play that game like you have to wait like 2 days before, we spoke tonight, so we can't talk tomorrow.
Yeah.
That would be too much. Like,
or I can't respond right away.
You need to leave some space. Like all those crazy things. Like
we were like, if we want to hang out, let's hang out.
Let's not do that stuff.
Let's not make all these crazy rules, and so we did that.
You don't want to come across as like needy. Like what? Like we were like, if we want to hang out, let's just hang out.
Yeah.
I was like, if you want to call me, call me. Don't get in your head about, am I calling him too much? No. Like, be natural, be authentic, whatever you want, just do it. And we flowed very fast and very quick with each other.
Do you feel like, because I love what you said just right there, where you're like, we're not going to play games. It sounded to me like you used the word authentic and honest with each other and easy. Is there any component of that you would say is part of resilience? Just that not playing games and just taking the relationship honestly? And
100%. I think the more resilient somebody is, the more that they're going to be able to do that.
Because they have, I think they have more connection with their inner compass, and so they can just be themselves. And if the person likes it, great. If they don't, great. I am who I am type of thing.
Yeah, I love that. I guess that's it. You were both like, this is who we are. And if it works for us to be together, then great. But if it doesn't, let's find that out now through being who we're going to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'll say, because I think my previous relationship before that, I got so many lessons and learnings. I love the old adage, that comes out of sports. I heard Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl quarterback champion last year. He said it the year before. He said, you know what? You're either winning or you're learning. Yeah. And I love that. Not that you're winning or losing.
Right,
you're winning or you're learning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's same with life. And so relationship before, a lot of learning, and it was a lot of learning, and it was a lot of learning about what I didn't want. And so we have a powerful question that we talk about in our book, in the Mental Toughness Challenge, which is, what do you want instead? When there's a negative thought you have, or something you're focused on that's negative, or something negative that happens, like, what do you want instead? So that was a powerful question that I utilized a lot. Like, I had that relationship, and I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's a lot of great aspects of it. But all the challenging ones, I wrote it all down, all the challenging aspects of her and us together and me with her. You know, I'm not going to point the finger. I'm going to take ownership and look at it from all angles for maximum empowerment. And I'm like, well, what do I want instead of that? And that was a big thing. I think I was going through that relationship trying to appease her too much, trying to make her happy rather than being happy.
Yeah. That's a good
So
distinction.
her, I was like, I just want to be happy with who I am and be me and be the most authentic me, and you know, hopefully that blends with who you are, and it really did, and it still does. 20 years.
How many?
Congratulations.
20 years.
Congratulations. That's awesome. So you got married and said, let's write a book.
Wait, let's spend 12 years researching and then write a book.
Let's write a book. How did that all come into be?
Yeah. Well, so we met in 2004, got married 2005, and then our company was formed in 2009.
Yep, end of 2009.
And then
Really off to
So
the
it was
races
formed
from the beginning.
because you guys both recognize that, you know what, this power, some of the things that you've been talking about are all in the mind power. I mean, what you had to overcome, Shay, with some of the internal things that you were battling with being an introvert, what you had to overcome, Steph, with everything with your father and all the other things. All that what I hear is like the foundation of what you guys were building together.
Totally.
And then together you said, you know what, this is some powerful stuff that we really need to put into a book or put into a methodology that allows people to experience it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because you know, we always say whenever we introduce ourselves to audiences, well, whether it's a keynote or during one of our programs or what have you, we always say we tell them our stories. So and we do that so they understand, like, we're like you. We you know, there's a famous psychologist that once said, you know, the reality is we're born and it's all trauma after that. Like, almost to diffuse the whole notion of trauma. Like, you know, let's not try to pinpoint this one thing as traumatic. Like,
We all have it.
everyone's got significant emotional events in their past. Everyone's got stories. Everyone's got challenges. Everyone's got hardships. And we always say, listen, our dysfunctional pasts are the reason why we stand before you today as the very successful and resilient people that we are today. Because, you know, we always say, our hardships fuel our resilience. Yep. And so your hardships fuel your resilience, and then that resilience fuels your success. So, and you know, we believe that your adversity is your advantage.
That's good.
There's what we discovered. So the book research began in 2009, and that's right when we were starting our company. We were really excited about really understanding how the mind works and how to make it work for you. And so we went deep research into everything related to the mind sciences and neuroscience, everything. And we quickly realized that at the center of everything is what's going on in the 6 inches between your ears. Everything. And so the way we stumbled upon that actually is we were, you know, because I came out of the corporate world as a very successful sales executive. It was easy for us to first start working with companies and teams because of contacts I had, and also contacts that she had because she was in the marketing and branding world. So we were doing things like executive coaching, leadership retreats, sales trainings, because of course I had a lot of experience as a sales executive. What we quickly realized is it didn't matter what we taught them in terms of processes, systems, or anything. If this wasn't right, none of it mattered. And because we would do follow-ups and be like, how's it going? Oh, well, that system didn't work because, and when we drilled down into it, it was because of some internal belief.
Yeah.
Like, and something that was keeping them from succeeding, that was all internal. So what we'd have to do is pump the brakes, do mind power coaching with them, like everything related to their mindset, their thoughts, their feelings, their behaviors. Then we'd have to retrain them on, say, the sales strategies or the leadership skills or whatever it was that they hired us for. And it came to a point where we started to fall more in love with the mind power aspect of it than the other stuff. The other stuff's fun, but that's at the center of it. So that was when we made a quick and fast pivot in the beginning, I'll say middle of 2010, that everything we were going to be doing was with mind power coaching. But at the end of 2009, when we started our business, that was when the decision, we already were like, we got to write a book that talks about our stories But we don't want it to just be stories and platitudes like a lot of development is. Let's go understand all of the research about anything related to thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And our book was a 12-year research project. It was a true labor of love.
And we wanted to really make it like a how-to manual so that people could walk away after reading it and know how to do it. So we're really big on how. And so,
not just how, but then the how of the how.
Right.
Because you can go one level how, and then it's about giving the how of the how as well.
So getting really specific on how to do it, and then step by step, so that anyone could do it. So we have a bunch of exercises in the book, mind power exercises that give that person the ability to do what we just spoke about through the research and the stories that we told, and so we did all this research, and we were researching it and then
experimenting
with ourselves
and clients,
and then our clients. So we would have the testimonials or the proof that it worked,
and the reps,
and then putting it into action. So finally 2020 came out, and we said, okay, this was before pandemic, so it was January. And we're like, let's write it. Like, let's get it down.
We had all the research done. And by the way, part of the research, I don't know if we mentioned this. So we studied the thought patterns, the behaviors, and the strategies of the who's who list of the mega wealthy and super achievers, from the late Steve Jobs of the world, Jeff Bezos, Oprah Winfrey, Sarah Blakely, Elon Musk,
Tom Brady,
and then a lot of pro athletes: Michael Jordan, the late Kobe Bryant,
Serena Williams,
Lindsey Vonn, Carissa Moore, David Beckham. The who's who list of pro athletes, and then also elite military personnel like Army Rangers, Navy SEALs. Because we are of the belief that success leaves clues. So if you want to know how to be successful, well, look for the pattern and see the clues that have been there since the beginning of time.
So we started seeing all these patterns, and
then we took the most common ones
and distilled it down
in the book, and then turned them all into processes. By the way, processes that they didn't even know they were doing. Like, one thing that we had to discover through the research was the idea of what they did, but then we had to, chunk it down into a process, into a system, into a series of steps. Because, there's some pro athletes, that would just say, like, for instance, Tom Brady, he'd be like, yeah, I go up to the line and I breathe. Okay, great, good. Breathing is good. Oxygen is good. But the more we dug deeper into it, we realized, he's using the box breath. So let's talk about the box breath and how to do it. So just things like that, where a lot of the people that we researched just did it, but never talk about the how. So we're like, let's make it very clear. Let's turn it into systems and make it how, so that anybody could do it.
Yeah.
So then 2020,
yep.
All the research is together.
We're in our mountain home in Utah, and we're like, okay, we're going to write this.
12 months. We're like, 12 months, we're going to publish in December.
Yep, and we had it planned out. He was going to write a chapter, I was going to write a chapter, and we were going to go every other chapter. And so all of a sudden, the pandemic hits.
And the world shut down.
February, March. We're only like maybe we're probably 3-4 chapters into the book.
Yeah.
Again, research is there, but it's about bringing it all together. The stories were already done.
Yeah,
it's about bringing it all together.
Compile it all, and
then you had a wild idea, like you usually do.
So then I was like, Steph, we have to get this out now, like not December, now. And he's like, okay. And he love him. He always quickly gets on board, whatever it is, and like, okay. And so at this time now, we had a full load of clients. We were seeing upwards towards 30 clients
a week between the two of us,
and that's 90-minute sessions each. So we were, and that was only on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So we were seeing about 5 clients a day, each of us. And so
working on the book in the
mornings,
in the evening,
yep,
and then all day Saturday, and then Sunday off.
And just triple timing it, and we
got it out
able
May.
to launch it by May. Somehow, by the grace of God, we got it out by May, and that first week sold 15,000 copies, and then later in the fall, it hit the Wall Street Journal bestseller list, and we were totally honored and humbled by that, and And then our phone started ringing off the hook, and
then with private coaching practice grew more.
and we weren't able to keep up with all of it. So then we created our group programs, of which we have today, which is basically the book in a
how-to
live format.
Yep.
How to do
everything that's in there.
Everything that's in there. So
it was a push. It was crazy, but worth it. And people always say, the whole what's the saying? Luck is where preparation meets opportunity. Yes. I don't disagree with that. I think that there's a missing component. I think there's one more component: massive action. Because you could have all the preparation and then opportunity, but if you don't take action on it, then nothing's going to happen. Yeah. So that's that whole notion of you don't get lucky, you create your luck, and you do that through the preparation and the massive action. So the opportunity is the only thing that's just it's there, and right time, right place, you're probably going to be there. So we were definitely prepared. I mean, 12 years of research is it was all there.
Yeah,
it's just about pulling it all together, and we hired 3 editors too. That helped too to bring it all together really quickly. But then it was okay, there's a problem. People's minds were unspooling. People were running to the grocery store and stocking up on toilet paper.
For what reason, we'll never know, but
right.
we'll never know. And that's just a great example of the reptilian brain taking over, and people just not thinking clearly and not thinking about how to be part of the solution. And we're clearly being part of the problem. We're the world needs help. In this book, we'll be able to help them.
So in the book, you use the powerful metaphor of a running parachute, and you brought it up before.
Yeah.
Can we dive into that for just a second? Because that is such a powerful metaphor. And what I'd love to hear is where the metaphor came from, and then really what it means and how it goes forward.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, we, as you know, in the book, there's the story of me in the triathlon. Which was it's in the section "Embrace the Suck."
Yes.
There was a triathlon where everything was going wrong. Everything. I mean, it was colder than it was supposed to be. There was rain. The roads were slick underneath my bike. My wetsuit. That I had was slightly sized a little bit too big. I don't know what happened there.
So that's some drag. If it's too big, that's serious drag.
It's weird. It's not like I tightened up or lost that much weight in such a short period of time, but the initial fitting seemed great, and then all of a sudden it didn't. I don't know. There's probably some physics involved there that I haven't really thought about. But anyway, the drag there. It was just crazy, and then I ended up placing second by just through grit and push and
dragging the wetsuit behind you.
I got to tell you, Shay taught me how to swim. I mean, I knew how to swim, but I think I had a really perfected doggy paddle. And then, I never did swimming in high school, college, or anything. She competed. So I could do a breaststroke and little doggy paddle, but she actually taught me form. And so she taught me how to swim. Running, I was only a sprinter because I played tennis and soccer. So I didn't understand endurance running. She was a runner. She'd run marathons, half marathons. And then I taught her how to cycle because I'm European. Of course, I grew up cycling, doing long distance cycling, with my dad and so on and so forth. So it was cool. So anyway, when we were training, we trained with running parachutes. And it's some of the listeners might not know what they are. These are literally the parachutes you strap to your body to intentionally create drag and a resistance.
So it makes it harder
when
you're running, so that your body has to create that strength and that endurance and that stamina. So then when you take it off,
there's newfound power.
You're fast.
You're more agile. You're more explosive.
And you're better and you're stronger.
You have faster top speeds. And so that's something that we still even train with from time to time today, not as rigorously as before, but still. So whenever we're doing the research for our book, back then, we were always talking about mental and emotional barriers. I said it so many times, I think I got sick of saying it. But no, we were training, and it's a cool phenomenon that happens if you actually train with these, especially if you run against the wind. So you run as hard and as fast as you can with the parachute behind you, or you can even do multiple, 2 or 3. and it's almost as if you're on a treadmill. You're going nowhere, and you're going as fast as you can, and then you just let go of the clip, and all of a sudden you lurch forward, almost like you've got rocket launchers on you. And I all of a sudden I was like, whoa. This is the same thing that happens when individuals, they get rid of their negative emotions and their limiting beliefs, their mental and emotional barriers. I'm like, we see this, like, at that point we had worked with thousands and thousands of clients. How we got our reps up so fast was working with corporations. So we worked with New York Life Insurance, and literally we had an opportunity to do group plus private coaching with 500 people over the course of 6 months. So our reps went up real fast. We worked with, BMW. We worked with Med Assets, a division of AstraZeneca, Keller Williams Real Estate, just so many different corporations, a lot of Fortune 100, 500 corporations because of my background and contacts. So we were getting deeper into developing what we call mind power coaching. We're like, we have got to do something to help people with their mental and emotional barriers. So a lot of our research was into the works of Dr. Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning. The whole notion of logotherapy and finding meaning in everything in life, even the times of most suffering and even those that might be labeled as traumas. And that everything is a blessing, everything is a gift. Our past didn't happen to us, it happened for us. And that whole notion of things, we studied the pioneering work of medical doctor, Dr. Milton Erickson. He was a medical hypnotherapist who worked with thousands of people. He practiced from 1920 to 1980.
60 years.
Wow.
And he saw patients 7 days a week, upwards towards 14 patients a day.
So he got the reps
Yeah,
in.
definitely.
We studied with one of his students directly to understand the whole notion of the unconscious mind, where the mental and emotional barriers are stored, because that's where they were formed.
Also the power of suggestion and how that works with the unconscious.
To help people do mental and emotional release. So that, some pioneering work from famous psychologist Dr. William James and a couple of other individuals as well that did work over imaginary timelines or anything with the past. So we had already done so much work with so many clients. And then that day we're training with the running parachutes, and I'm like, holy cow, I just went forward and I felt like, who's the superhero that
Flash?
It's go time. Flash. I felt like Flash. I was like, he said it's go time, right? I felt like Flash. I was like, I feel like I just went Mach 10 after the running parachutes were gone. And I went, this is what happens with our clients when their mental and emotional barriers get released whenever we do work with them. At that point, didn't really name it anything. We were just doing, mental and emotional release work with them. Like an example, clients would tell us, wow, I just did these sessions with you guys, like releasing all of my mental and emotional barriers. Again, that's how we talked about them before. And they're like, and I just cleaned my garage. I did 3 years of back taxes. I detailed my car. I just created a business plan for a new business. And I've spent more time with my family than I have in years.
Because their internal world was clean, and so now their outer world had to reflect that, and so they just get to work.
And it's because the drag's not there anymore.
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, Shay, everyone has running parachutes, but they're invisible and they got them from other people.
Someone else put them on them and they didn't know they were there.
They look like anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, shame, jealousy, rage, feeling not good enough. I can't be successful in my career and with my family. I can't keep the 4 pillars of life balanced: faith, fitness, family, finances. I can't double my income. I can't triple my income. I can't 10x my
These
income.
are all examples of what we would call running parachutes, right? These limitations or negative emotions.
So I'm like, what we're doing, and we didn't even know it,
is helping
linguistically
let go.
We're pulling out
disconnect.
pruning shears and cutting off the cord, and the running parachutes are floating away in the wind, and they are like moving through life like Flash.
Yeah, because we always, our clients would always tell us afterward, they're like, wow, I feel lighter on my feet. We heard that so many times. And to your point, it was like exactly how you feel when you disconnect that running parachute, the harness, and you feel lighter on your feet. And so that's where the whole
metaphor began.
That's beautiful.
Born.
So from that point forward, we were like, Okay, mental and emotional barriers, you're out. Running parachutes, you're in. And so now in our community, everybody knows it's like, hey, when they're wrestling with something that's holding them back from their next level, they know it's a running parachute that needs to be identified and released.
And then our process is called
Now
running parachute
we
release.
created a process called running parachute release.
Which I love the visual of that, because mental and emotional barriers, the word just sounds big. And sometimes you're like, and it sounds complicated to overcome. But
Totally.
a running parachute, even as you were talking, I can picture a clip and I'm like, is it as easy as just unhitching it? Can it be that easy?
Yeah.
But I think when we talk about emotional and mental barriers, it doesn't feel like it can be that easy.
heavy.
It doesn't feel like it can be
know.
that possible. And
And by the way,
And that's what we learned from feedback.
That's what we learned from feedback.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like a happy accident, because what we realized we did, understanding how the mind works and how it encodes things. Like we encode things in our mind through pictures, sounds, feelings, smells, tastes, thoughts, etc. We're like, holy cow, we didn't do that part on purpose because we just loved the metaphor. And we also knew the metaphor was relatable, and that everyone we would tell that metaphor to would get it, including, which is important to Shay and I, even younglings.
Yes.
Like young adults, kids understand the metaphor, meaning then that means we can also do work with kids and young adults, which we do and love doing. So, but here's the happy accident. Like, holy cow, what we did is we just relegated something big, to your point, and we relegated it to nylon and cords and plastic.
Yeah.
Like it took something big and made it, something inconsequential and harmless.
Right.
And that in and of itself is also already doing certain types of change work. Like I think of one of my first experiences with Tony Robbins. He was one of my first mentors. And I remember at an event, there was this lady, because he could tell she was like, something was going on with her. Like she was white, she was down, and he was like, what's going on? And she was like, I have like so much debt. And he was like, tell me about that debt. Like, describe it. She goes, I feel like there's this big, huge bag, and it's behind me, and there's a chain tied to it to my ankle, and I just can't move anymore. And like it's almost like it's got a whole bunch of rocks in it. It's so heavy. It's got steel in it. And I feel like I'm just not going to be able to move forward through life anymore. And so quick, Tony goes, well, what would happen if I just broke off those shackles from your ankle and I attached that big bag to a rocket and I lit the fuse and I sent it to the sun and it blew up? She goes, well, the weight wouldn't be there anymore. Visually, she had color in her face, and all of a sudden, like, she was able to think clearly. It doesn't solve the problem. Right. But at least the negative kinesthetics that were happening in her world, the negative feelings, because of what was going on in her imagination and the way she encoded it in her brain, was causing her to not be able to move forward through life.
So then she could move forward to then take action to do something about the debt.
So that was the happy accident. We didn't even realize with the whole running parachute metaphor that we helped an individual see something that looked like this scar in their past is just some nylon cords and strings and a buckle.
Yeah.
So good catch.
So let's go the how behind the how, because you give a great metaphor and it's there, but give us a little bit of how you help people to release that latch. How because that is really where the key comes in. Is I can see it, I can feel it, I know that it's there, but how do I release that latch? How do I get it to where I can actually explode forward?
Yeah. Great question. So it's, again, kind of pulling from all the research we did.
Yeah, the research was the hard part. The release is the easy part.
It is. It really is.
That's the good news.
And so it's really all about getting the meaning, the purpose of why something happened in someone's past. So we can't change our past. Our past happened. It is what it is. But we can change our perspective on how we view it. And what we get from it. And so in the process, the running parachute release, you use your imagination and we have fun with it. And we say, get in your imaginary time machine and go up and, back into the past. And you view this event of whenever anger, let's say, was learned or witnessed, or that running parachute was adopted and, clung onto you. And they get a learning of, whatever was the purpose, the silver lining. We always say, what's the silver lining
Yep.
right? That you got from that has made you better today.
Yep.
Right? Like what was the purpose of that happening, that you can learn from it and get positive meaning from it, so that you now know that you don't have to do that old thing. You can be a better version of yourself in the future.
And then the final bit is to forgive anyone, including yourself, that has to do with that event. And so that there's also a disconnection or release with any individuals that are associated with that event. That's important as it relates to triggers and whatnot. So that's the 3 steps. Step 1 is identification. Where did this come from? When did it begin? Who did it come from? Step 2, finding the silver lining. What is the meaning? What is the positive purpose? That's straight out of logotherapy from Viktor Frankl, the positive meaning of the event. And then step 3 is forgiving anyone, including self, if applicable, that has to do with the event. So it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Identification, silver lining, forgiveness.
That is good. I love that forgiveness is a part of it. I had
Yep.
an experience. So my mom got pregnant with me when she was in high school. And so I didn't have a lot of interaction with my biological father, but I did with his mom. My grandma would fly me out, and I had a lot of relationship with her. And then she passed away, and I lost contact with my grandfather. And years later, I found him, and I called him, and I was like, "Do you remember me?" And he said, "Yeah, I remember you." And we had this great conversation for about 5 minutes. And at this time, he was 89, almost turning 90. So he'd lived his whole life. And we talked for a few minutes. And then within about 5 minutes, he started talking about my mom and how awful she was and these different things. And I thought, that was like 50 years ago. Like, this was a long time ago. And you're still
Sure.
upset about it. And I just saw how much not forgiving whatever he perceived had happened kept him in the same place. Like, he couldn't get past that, even though he's heading into 90 years of life.
Yeah.
And so that was such a powerful example to me of that forgiveness holds us back. It keeps us in the same place. We stay in the same place of that event, and we can't go past it unless we're willing to
100%.
forgive. And I love that you say forgiving yourself is a part of that, because I think we force ourselves sometimes to stay in a place that's not a good place by not forgiving ourselves, by not saying, you know what, I can learn from that and move past it.
Yeah,
So that's
absolutely.
great.
We keep ourselves stuck and almost like a punishment,
Yeah.
because we did something wrong. We all do something, we all make mistakes. That's a part of life. That's a part of learning, but we don't have to.
You don't have to stay
keep
there.
suffering from
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
That is so good.
Or hold that energy towards someone else, that resentment or the hurt or whatever feeling it is, right? Just to let it
that
go.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this conversation is.
I know,
flown
we could
by.
go
Oh my
forever.
goodness, forever. I have a couple more, and then we'll bring this to a close. It's been such a great time with you, Steph and Shay. Thank you so much. That
Thank
you
you,
know
guys.
that we're all about consistency. Streaking is all about
Yep.
consistency
Yeah.
and how we do it. So, what are the mental mind power daily things that, and it's not a lot, but what are I know, because in the book you talk about this. You talk about the most valuable priorities, and then you also talk
Sure.
about
Yeah.
what you can do weekly and what you can do daily. Highlight a little bit for our listeners who, what are some of the power streaks, if you will, that really do help you to develop your mind power and move forward?
Yeah, so I think that you got to start small, crawl, walk, run, and I think that's super important. And if an individual can just do something that they absolutely can commit to doing every single day, doesn't matter how small or the shortness of the duration, that will totally set them up for massive levels of success. We see people go for too much too fast all the time. It's January 1st. They set a New Year's resolution, which is, don't even get us started about resolutions.
We could have a great conversation on that.
We
Absolutely.
are vehemently opposed to resolutions. Big effing goals is a different story. Should definitely set some BEGs. But resolutions, I think 80% of them are kaput by February. But let's just say the individual, they're like, okay, I'm gonna go to the gym. And they work out for 90 minutes. not sustainable.
No.
It's just not sustainable. So it's about doing little tiny things that you can 100% commit to with 100% certainty that you could do for 365 days. I think that's super key. And like, I'll give some examples. So like we have in our book, we talk about our morning routine for mental toughness. Yeah. It's a 9-minute morning routine, and it's got 3 parts, breathing, then gratitude, then goals. And it's 3 by 3. It's 3 sets of breathing, doing the Kapalabhati pranayama, the skull shining breath, in through the nose, out through the nose, forceful. And it wakes up the mind and it wakes up the body and dumps a lot of nitric oxide into the bloodstream. It's stronger than any caffeine. And so we do that, 3 sets of 30, and then we focus on 3 things we're grateful for.
Because gratitude is so powerful and
also has a biochemical response.
Yep. Really? And it's impossible to have a negative thought and consciousness while in gratitude.
We say, okay, think of something you're grateful for. Try to get pissed off.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
No one can do it. Everyone laughs. Like it's not possible. No. From a neuroscience standpoint, it's not possible. So focusing on 3 things you're grateful for. In terms of the biochemical response, we found out out of UCLA, there's a study, and they were like, gratitude, it dumps all the feely-good chemicals and hormones into the bloodstream. So endorphins, dopamine, serotonin,
oxytocin.
I mean,
just
for free.
So now you feel great.
You feel great, and then so now you're awake, your mind's awake, your body's awake, and then you feel good. So now this is the great time to take that positive state and set goals for the day, the week, the month, the year. You just focus on some things that you want to achieve, whatever kind of comes to you. You know, because some people, they wake up and they do goal setting, but they're grumpy. Well, you're going to inject grumpiness into your goals, and no wonder you're not going to get them. When you have positive feelings and thoughts associated with goals, it's been proven in science that there's an increased chance that you'll get it. Because the more positive emotion and thoughts associated with goals, the deeper it goes into the unconscious mind. And the conscious mind's the goal setter.
And the unconscious mind is the goal getter.
So you want that goal deep into the unconscious mind. And the way to do that is make sure it has intense emotion and thoughts associated with it that are all positive, because it increases the likelihood that you're going to get it. So then we do that's the goals part. We get this done in 6 to 9 minutes. We're allowed no longer than 9 minutes to do this routine.
And it's something that you can do wherever you are. If you're traveling, you don't need anything else other than yourself. So it's easy to do, and if you don't under 10 minutes.
If you don't have 9 minutes, you don't have a life. Let's get real. If somebody could do, and by the way, that's our routine. We always tell people, we don't care what routine you do as long as you do something and make it less than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And man, even if somebody just did gratitude every single morning, right when they woke up. I like a little more oomph, so that's why I like the Kapalabhati pranayama skull shining breath to wake me up. And I don't drink coffee, so that's my coffee, so to speak. But still, if someone just did gratitude every single morning for 365 days, they'd be unrecognizable after a year. So I think it's about starting small, and then if you do want to build it from small, but start small so that you know that you can do it. So that's like a morning routine. Fitness front. If you want to run a mile, for at least 2 to 3 weeks, just go to the end of your driveway and back every day and no more. Build up the neurology and the body will follow. Too many people have that backwards. They try to build the body and get the neurology to follow, and it doesn't work. Here's kind of an analogy. Let's say that we're in the Midwest and there's a nice farm field, a nice field at a farm, and let's say we'll go with wheat. Okay, so wheat farm. And there's a truck that needs to get from one side of the farm to the other, and it's the first time it's ever going to go through this field. It needs to make a road. So picks the trajectory and does it, and of course goes across. What happens? The wheat falls down, and you could see that there's a little path behind that truck, and it goes back and forth every single day. In time, where that truck is driving, there will be no wheat. It won't even be laying down. It will have disintegrated. And then it won't take too long, depending how many rainstorms there have been. And if it got muddy, that now there's going to be wheel tracks. And then let's say it's 5 years later, the wheel tracks are going to be so deep, you wouldn't even have to have your hands on the steering wheel, and the truck would drive itself across that field because the wheel tracks are so deep. This is what we need to do with our neurology. From a neuroscience standpoint, we want to build up that neurology so that we could literally have the truck drive itself. All we have to do is hit the accelerator and it will go across the field. So we always tell people, based on all of our research, you want to run a mile every day? You know what? Spend 2 weeks going to the end of your driveway and back. Then spend the next couple weeks going to the end of your driveway and back twice. Yes, you're going to want to go more. Don't do it. Don't do it. And then you're going to, the next 2 weeks, go to your neighbor's house and back. Do that for 2 weeks. Then to the end of your road and back. Do that for a couple of weeks. And then to the opposite end of the road because it's a little bit longer and back. And by right now, just walk until you've walked a mile. And now that you've walked a mile for at least a couple of weeks, now why don't you just for the first eighth of it do a light jog, but then go to a walk. Mm-hmm. And so this is how from starting in 2018, how I was recovering from an injury in 2017, always fit, couldn't do like a lot of activity. About the only thing I could do was push-ups. I kept that going. But that's how I got myself back up to running again. And now I do a 5K every day. Current active streak is 564 days.
I was hoping you would bring that up. I was going to ask you for it, but I was hoping you'd bring it up. Yeah.
How? Because we were in Utah. I was healing from the injury, 2018, and I went down to the end of the driveway and back for a couple of weeks. I did the whole thing that I just mentioned.
And just built the
and
habit.
Built it up and built up the neurology. Yeah. And then to the point where I ran the mile. That was my goal, was to run the mile and then to start to do it for speed again, because again, I'm a sprinter and I like speed. So body was healed and then the neurology was there again. So then it wasn't difficult for me to ratchet it up from 1 mile to 1.5 to 2 to 2.5 to 3 to 3.11, which is 5K. But why? Because I built up the neurology. So I think what's key for individuals is to start annoyingly small.
The way we call it we have in the book, in the streaking book, it's the first law of streaking is to make it laughably simple, where you just laugh at it. It's
other people laugh at it.
Or other people laugh at it, but it's so laughably simple that it's impossible not to do it. It overcomes all of your ego, all the things that you've got. It's laughably simple.
Yeah.
100%.
Well said. I love that.
Yeah.
We might borrow that.
Please do.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We'll quote you.
We'll quote you. We'll quote you guys. No, and that's the key, because we're in this bigger, better, faster, stronger world. And so I think people think it's like go big or go home. No.
But as our mentor, Darren Hardy says, everyone can start. Yes. Very few can finish.
Yep. Yeah. It's so I think that's key is starting. What you said?
Laughably simple. Yep. Laughably simple.
Laughably simple.
I love that.
Yeah. Laughably simple.
Yeah.
And small. I think that's key. And then
keep the consistency.
Now, from a mind power standpoint, a lot of individuals, their thoughts and their feelings are working against them, so they can't create consistent behaviors. You've got to retrain your mind like a puppy. And what a powerful question. What do you want instead? For an individual, what they're going to say to themselves, what do I want instead? I can't tell you over the last 564 days, the amount of times where I'm like, maybe this is the last day of the streak.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Maybe this is
Anytime. You got to beware of the siren song, right? And then I can't tell you some times where there's a time where I was a mile in and I tweaked a muscle. Well, a muscle flared up, a groin muscle that I tweaked on the pickleball court. So nothing.
Did you win, Shay? Did you beat him that time?
Usually we play on the same team.
Okay. So you're playing together.
But I was that torqued me so much because my run is so important to me every day, and I was like, I can't pull muscles on the pickleball court. I'm gonna have to. I'm so competitive though; it's hard not to go out there and reach for balls, and because I grew up playing competitive tennis. So anyway, I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to run. I'm like, what do I want instead? I will keep going. Okay. My groin muscle doesn't feel good. What do I want instead? I want it to feel good and to loosen up while I'm running, and it did. People don't get that the body's like a robot programmed to do what the mind tells it to. People don't get that. So if you're focused on the pain, you'll get more pain. If you tell your muscle to relax,
it'll relax.
It'll relax. Now, that's not the only thing. I also was like, okay, what else, what's the lesson? What's the learning here? And I'm like, I gotta, with the amount that I'm now running, I need to stretch more. So I'm like, I know I need to stretch more. So I tell you what, anyone who wants to do any sort of a streak, anyone who wants to be consistent in anything, when you're thinking about not doing it, just use that question. What do I want instead? What do I want instead? What do I want instead? It will get you through so much suck. So that's been.
We're gonna borrow that.
I mean,
how to get you through the suck.
That's right.
Just what do I want instead? What do I want instead? I remember I had a stomach bug last year.
Never get the stomach bug.
I never get the stomach bug.
And he still went. He still went.
Still went. We had a couple hurricanes come, near us, and the streets were dead. And there's like wind is blowing, stuff's flying through the air. Still out.
Traveling internationally.
I've finished off. I think I told you this the other day, Jeff. I finished off one of my 5Ks on an airplane. Yes. I was like, I'm at like
I gotta finish.
2.85. Yeah. And so there I am, like walking around the gate, still couldn't get it on the plane. Sir, you need to sit down. I'm almost ready to sit down. And finally the buzzer on my Apple Watch goes off, says goal achieved, and then I'm like,
I can sit.
Did a 5K in Paris-Charles de Gaulle Airport, and we were flying to Europe last year.
Following him with the stroller with our little
See, now that is the other part of this. That I heard you say, and I was like, okay, so child now mind power, being parents and teaching your children how to mind power. I don't know how old your son, did you say? Is it son?
Yeah, he'll be three next month.
So you're getting him right at the beginning. I mean, that's just like, okay, we've got someone who we can work with right from the beginning. That's got to be like, okay, here we go, Shay. Let's make this happen.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome. And kids are sponges.
Oh, yes.
They're so like this is a perfect example and very relevant and real. So last week we put him in swim lessons, and last Monday, he was like a cat to the water, just like, I know, nope. And like we were the parents with the screaming child that everyone's looking at, like, do we need to intervene? Is everything okay here, right? We weren't forcing him to do anything, but he just didn't want to do anything that we were telling him or the coaches were telling him. And so we're like, okay, at that point it was just like, let's just be in the water, right? And so I'm just talking to him and holding him, and I'm like, look at the sky. Look at the tree. At this point, I'm just trying to get him to breathe because he's hyperventilating. He's got himself so worked up. Yeah. And, look at those kids over there. They're jumping in the water. Look, they're diving for rings. They can only dive for rings because they can swim. And, look at those kids. They're jumping off the side of the pool, and they can only do that because they can swim. And so I just kind of repeated that over and over. And then before you know it, he was calming down. He was looking at all the things. So that was day one. And day two kind of went the same and was like hyperventilating, like at some point during the class. And day three,
I think at some point gathered all the towels, threw them in the bag, started dragging the bag towards the gate, like
trying to leave.
He's like, I'm out.
I am done with this.
He's like, I'm done.
I don't do water.
And we're like, to us inside, I know like both of us were like internally coaching ourselves, like, okay, like what do we want instead of this whole thing? Like, okay, we're gonna stay calm, cool-headed, and in control. And so we just got through like each class like bit by bit by bit, and there was little mini wins throughout, and still not swimming, still not like he wasn't interacting till Thursday. It was like just a switch flipped, and all of a sudden he was like in the water.
Yeah, then you couldn't get him
fun.
out. Yeah.
And then flash forward to today's actually his last day of this 2-week class, and like he's like a fish, and we can't get him out of the water. And so that's just a glimpse of like
what's possible.
And it taught us so many things, reminded us of so many things that we know and that we teach our clients, but we got to see it real life. And just like when you come up against a wall, like just stick with it and like keep going. And that's, right there was a whole glimpse of the learning, the learning curve. When you start to learn something, you're going to hit a wall.
Yep.
And all your stuff's going to surface, and insecurities or upset or this emotion, that emotion, this limiting belief, whatever. And you got to know that on the other side is getting to clarity, and then that starting to feeling of like,
competence. Competence.
Okay, I can do this. I got this. And then you go through it and just getting those reps over and over and over again. Then you finally get to mastery. You keep going and going. So we got
to see it in real life.
That's
really cool.
That's so great.
Like what we teach in real life with a youngling.
Yeah.
And it's my mentor Tony Robbins said it best. He said, Entrepreneurs grossly overestimate what they can do in a year and grossly underestimate what they can do in 10.
Oh, wow.
And that is not just about business. That is applicable in every context in life. Everybody wants it now. I mean, think about it. It's a fast food. There's an app for that, Society.
Instant gratification.
Instant gratification. Order on Amazon, get it by this evening.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be 2-3 day shipping,
Now
and
it's
we were
same day.
amazed. Now it's same day or next day.
And
it's
we're
free.
annoyed if it's more than a day.
Right.
We are.
We've
And
been
so
very
we're-
trained to expect.
We've been very trained for now, but newsflash, our biology has not evolved like technology has. And a lot of people, they don't get that. They think that our biology has evolved. We're really the same operating system that our ancestors were thousands of years ago. Like if you really think about that. Technology though, of course, it's speeding up and at an expeditious rate. And futurists are saying in the next 3 years, we're going to have an evolution in technology and consciousness. Consciousness is a different thing than biology, but an evolution in tech and consciousness that rivals the last 30.
Wow.
So the next 3 years is going to be like 30 years in terms of advancement in technology. Biologically, we're pretty much the same. So people expect us biologically to be like how we are from a consciousness or a tech standpoint, and it doesn't work like that. You gotta just start small, stay consistent, stay with it.
Something
Like
you've
Darren
said
said.
a lot that I don't know if other people have noticed, but you've said it, both of you have said it at different times, is the reps. This idea of you got to get the reps in, you've got to keep doing it,
Yeah.
you've got to, and I think it's fascinating too, because you start off with something that's so unfamiliar, and then the reps help you get familiar, and you reach a point of familiarity and comfort. But then I love what you said, Shay, where you're like, you're going to hit a wall and all your stuff's going to explode. And I thought that is so true. You get going, you get past the place where it was unfamiliar and it's become more familiar, and you can be comfortable with that. But then something happens and it all blows up in your face.
Yeah.
And I love
Yeah.
that concept of, okay, that's okay. Even understanding that that's going to happen, and looking at it and being like, okay, I was told this was
what's
going to
going
happen.
on.
So I'm normal. This is great. Let's just
Yes.
keep the reps going and work through it.
Yes.
That was really good.
Yes.
As Darren said, everybody starts, very few can last.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
like the goal is to last. And
Yeah.
and what Shay and I always say too, because we eat our own cooking, but our goal is mastery.
Yeah.
And that's what we always say to individuals in our community or people that we meet or at keynotes, like seek mastery. Like don't just seek knowing something. Actually seek mastering it. Like I love what Bruce Lee said. He said, I fear not the man who's practiced 10,000 kicks once. I fear the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's mastery.
mastery.
That's that right there. That quote is a master class on mastery. Like
so true.
pick something and just
just stick
repeat
with
it
it.
and stick with it over and over and over again. That's what we're going to tell Bash. His name's Sebastian,
Okay.
but we
Bash.
call him Bash.
Wonderful.
It's
Yeah.
people are always like, do you want him to become a mind power coach? Or like, I mean, secretly yes, and
Whatever he
We
wants.
want him to do whatever
Yeah.
he wants. Like it's just.
We have rules. To
We
that.
have rules. We have absolute rules. We want him to truly be resilient, of course, and at the same time we want him to be the exception. Don't do what the other people are doing. Do your own thing. But then the third rule is to be excellent. And what does excellence mean? It means seek to master something. Don't be a jack of all trades and a master of none. Like find something you love and master it.
Yeah.
And so that's and whatever that is, whether it's a dancer, a poet, a mind power
Astronaut.
coach, an astronaut, an architect, whatever. As long as he seeks mastery.
That is so neat. Well, thank you both for spending time with us today.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to
both.
see if
Thanks.
I can talk you
Fun.
into it again in a while,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it'll be fun. And we'll have to see if we can get together. Since we're both in Utah, we'll have to see if we can get together
Correct.
somewhere and have a very
Yes.
small, intimate, like lunch or dinner that's just for introverts.
And we'll bring our 13-year-old to meet your 3-year-old. That would be
Yes.
fun.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yes, we would love that.
That'd be
Well,
awesome.
thank you guys. This has been
Thank you both.
fantastic.
Thank you.
What a great conversation with Steph and Shay.
Oh my goodness.
And I want to take just a minute with Jami just after the conversation to talk through a couple things. So what were some of the highlights for you that are resonating right now?
Oh my goodness. So going back to the beginning, first of all, Steph's background and upbringing were quite the phenomenal story.
Yeah, I'd say both parents left by the time he was 16.
16.
Yeah.
But I resonated. I loved that his solution to those challenges was, well, let's get to work. And I feel like as he was talking, I was thinking what a blessing it is to be able to work.
Yeah.
To be able to have something where you're like, all right, well, I'm going to go out and do something about this.
Yeah.
And I loved that part.
Yeah. And then Shay's experience as well, as far as what going to the martial arts, MMA studio and really just saying, I want to be like this person.
Yep.
Both of them from a very early age showed this resilience and this mind power that they then encapsulated in the book a little bit later on. Toward the end of the conversation, we asked them a little bit about what are some of the streaks that they could do.
Yes. Well, they call them MPVs, most valuable priorities in a day, and things that you can do in a day or things that you can do in a week. And they were speaking streaking language without realizing they were speaking streaking language.
What I loved is, to your point, how Steph explained, make it laughably simple.
Yep.
Now, one thing that we didn't get into, but that I was thinking about is we go away from timing something to activity.
Right.
So, for example, when he was talking about the morning routine, the activity of taking a certain number of breaths, saying a certain number of gratitude statements, and then what was his third one? It was, I'm trying to remember what it was that he said, because it was gratitude, breaths, and there was one other that he did. Do you remember right off the top of your head?
I don't know if he specifically said, was it go over their goals?
Yes, it was goals. Yep. He said, and that took them a certain amount of time.
Right.
And what I would say is focus on the activity. Don't worry about the time that it consumes, because typically it will consume very little time. And recognize that the very little, the small, simple, the laughably simple thing that you do in occupying and filling that time will produce massive results.
And I think part of the reason that you come back to this often is because I do feel like we have those days where we're like, I don't have 9 minutes. Like, really, I don't.
Right.
You feel that pressure.
Mental barrier.
And so, it becomes a barrier. And looking at it and saying, okay, you don't have to find the time. You can do the activity. And then you do it in conjunction with other things you're doing. I look at it and I think, could it be something that you say, I've got to do my breaths. I'm going to do those in the car because I've got to get out the door right now. And I think that's what you're talking about, of not allowing the time to become a barrier, because there are going to be those days where you're like, I don't have the time. I really don't. I mean, it could be 9 minutes. It could be 2 minutes. I don't have it.
I just don't have the time.
And
however, when you switch it to looking at the activity, all of a sudden, wait, I can do that activity at this point or at this point in my day.
And it may seem like a small thing, because there's probably not going to be very many days that you have to make that mental shift. But I do think that it's important, because what we're talking about is consistency, and it was great because he talked about it in running.
Yes.
He talked about doing his 5K.
Yeah, he does a 5K. And
every morning, and
almost into 2 years.
And I love that he's like, I've done it in a hurricane. I've done it on an airplane. I've done it in an airport. I've done it when I was sick. That does something for you when you look back on that and think,
talk about
I did
resilience and being able to build the resilience, which is what
And he didn't talk about how fast he did it.
No.
He didn't talk about, he's just like, I did it.
Even though he was a competitive individual and wanted to really make it happen.
But there were times, I mean, you're not running super fast on an airplane.
And, speaking of resilience, when Shay was talking about taking their son swimming and being able to have the patience through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday for Bash, that's
Sebastian, Bash.
That he was able to then, but it took her patience and everything else.
Here's what I loved about that story is that we are willing to exhibit that kind of patience with young children, but we are not always willing to give ourselves that same level of patience.
That's insightful.
Like she talked about, I'm going to help you look at the sky and look at the other kids and feel the water. And she was slowly talking him off the ledge each day and getting things and kind of communicating as a parent, as a mom does to a child, of it's okay. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I think if we could give ourselves that same level of patience in those things that, because anything that we start new, we are starting like a child. That's why he said, crawl, walk, run. You're going to start at that crawling stage. And I think as adults, it's easy for us to be patient with children that are crawling and to to have all of those things that you do to help encourage be totally okay for a child,
Yeah.
but not as an adult. We don't give ourselves that same latitude as adult or that same praise for small wins. As a child, you cheer them on. We were just visiting our granddaughter who was learning to walk, and as she took a couple steps, we were all so proud and cheering. Her steps were fumbly, and she only was able to do 2 or 3 at a time, and we need to be able to give ourselves that kind of feedback when we're starting.
And be patient with
And
ourselves.
be patient with ourselves and celebrate where we are and the progress.
I think that one of the other mental images that they gave as far as the running parachute was such a good one.
So
Because, and I wanted to go back to, what were they calling it before they said the mental parachutes?
Mental and emotional barriers.
Yes. And you had said at that point, that's such a huge thing to try to overcome. And that's what I was looking at with tying that into when you put a time on something. It becomes a barrier to overcome rather than looking at it and saying, well, a mental parachute, if I can just release the strap,
Right.
I can go forward. That's what I look at as far as, well, I'll just do the activity, the laughably simple part of that activity, which will allow me to get to where I need to be.
Yep. Absolutely. I do love the running parachutes. That was
So do I. I thought
funny
that was
that I've
fantastic.
been running and I didn't know what a running parachute was.
Yeah. I've only seen them every once in a while. I knew what they were, but not ever have I ever tried one.
And I've
done
never
anything.
seen one being used.
Right.
But it did. I was like, that's a fun idea. I loved it. It's a very good visual.
So one of the things that Steph and Shay mentioned at the end that we'll bring up here, that it was off air. We were off air after this happened, that if you go to their website, you can get their book for free. You'll just pay the shipping, so you can pay a nominal amount of shipping. But you go to we'll put that in the link that you have there. If you have any questions for Jamie or I, shoot us an email at Jeffery, Jeffery at mystreaksapp.com or
Jami, Jami, at mystreaksapp.com.
Until we talk again, we hope that you enjoyed this podcast with Steph and Shay. We certainly did. We hope that you have a marvelous, fantastic, wonderful day. And as always,
Keep streaking.